so here we are ready to start Gearworld. Because setup's part of the decision-making process in a fairly important sort of way, just like in Magic Realm or something, or Risk, or Samurai Swords. I'm gonna do a little bit of it, but I don't want to go into too much detail. So basically, I don't want to stick with it all the time. So basically what happens, we're over here with green. He's gonna pick some place to put a piece. You know, he can put it wherever he likes, really. And he'll just drop it here, because that's sort of close to him. He doesn't get to see what it is. And now blue gets to pick a place. Let's take this bridge off here, so we don't get any wrong ideas. And oh, look, there's a cog there. I'll put it there. Nothing on the map there matters, except for these abutments, which determine where you can put bridges. And I'm just sort of placing them out. And now green gets to place another one. Now, if they start making an area very rich, it doesn't necessarily do anything for them. One thing, though, that green can look at is, hey, I get first placement, so a little bit of wealth might be of interest to me. An area that kind of concentrates some wealth. I'll put a piece here. And we're going to continue around. I'll come back when we start placing the actual control markers as well. Because they went first and get first pick with the people, have kind of made a very strong concentration down here. Maybe too strong a concentration, in the sense that they're not going to be, everybody's going to be kind of attracted to it. But there are some nice, important, strategic locations, but we don't know what's in any given location. So the next thing that we do is we flip these over, and these are kind of hard to see in a way. I find them, they don't jump out in quite the way that I wish that they did. And we see what the materials are that are available in each of the production areas. And this is indeed an important area because it's got coal and iron, which can produce weaponry, which is an early desirable commodity in my opinion when I've played. One time, of course, I played 2-player, where getting a jump on the military was really very helpful. I'm not sure it's as important elsewhere. The one thing that I saw as least important in 2-player, I began to see as more potentially valuable, which are the cogs, because with the cogs, you can build riverboats. And riverboats, while not hugely powerful, they're about the same as weapons, have mobility as well. So horses are also very important. Were also very important. I tried to dominate those as well. The cogs also are what you need for ships, although you need more of them. The ships are very powerful with 5 strength and mobility and a lot of speed. I don't believe the ships can go up the river though, so you have less capability there. Alright, so where does green want to jump in? And gold is kind of nice because it's flexible. Well, I believe this is one of the most important spaces on the board. Unfortunately, it's also a very hard space to hold. So what I'm going to do, and you can see he actually made a lot of power down here as well, I'm going to grab this gold space here. Now that brings us to blue, who could right away jump in and do a quick shoulder block into that area. Or alternatively, he could go try to carve out another area, sort of the second place area. I suspect the second place area is probably a better starting place, wherever I want to choose that. So one of the things has to do with the distribution of goods. Over here, there's enough of everything. But there's not enough of everything over here on the island. There's no iron, for example, so that's not going to build a bridge very easily. A bridge takes iron and cogs. I've got cogs, but no iron. There doesn't seem to be any iron over on the islands. I could, of course, build a boat and use that. Things are fairly empty here. There's no coal over here. Wow. I think I'm just going to jump right in. Right into the main area. I think this may have been a mistake not to take right away. Oh, over on White's side. And then red. What's left to kind of carve out is sort of the problem. Iron and cogs gets us bridges, which could get us over here. This all looks kind of interesting. It's not very rich, though. And we'd be competing with this right away. This doesn't look that bad if I dominate it. It's a little short, but remember I could trade for goods. And I'll keep going around selecting places, and we'll come back maybe at the end, but perhaps earlier than that. Back pretty early after 2 placements each. The reason is because there's something about the game that's sort of go-like. Now, when you're really in this setup part, and the same is true in the other games with this kind of setup, Samurai Swords, Risk, whatever. But it's especially so in 2-player. You know, you put a piece and you're kind of extending your territory, but in some cases you have this need to remain compact when you're really close to someone. So here we've got people playing very close together, but over here White's jumping for the resources that are near each other, but not necessarily going for this, even though this may be the more valuable resource and provides more direct support. He's also carving out territory and kind of making a claim on that side of the board. I really like what White's doing position-wise. Everybody else seems a little cramped in. Red, for example, probably is going to want to expand to somewhere else very shortly. After 3 and for green 4 spaces, blue's being put with a hard choice already. So they've carved out, you know, a certain claim, but at this point now they're given the question of, hey, do I want to grab a resource piece somewhere? Or do I want to grab sort of more strategic territory? For example, if I place here a resource, this is a space I'm not going to be able to keep. Green's going to take it from me very easily. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go over here and grab the horse out here. That makes it more unlikely, because horses have an immediate military strength, for someone else to take this island at all, and gives me kind of a refuge over there. The islands, for example, this island looks pretty valueless. People will show up there because their pieces are going to be there eventually. But the cogs are not really a terribly fast way to get to a lot of power. On the other hand, if someone, oh look, it's cog slopes. If someone ends up heavily able to grab most of that island, they can do transport options to move cogs out and then collect enough together to be able to build themselves a boat for whatever that's worth. There's a bridge. Yeah, bridge takes the iron and cogs, and there's no iron. All the resource spaces have been taken. And remember, green moves last, so they actually are not as advantaged in some ways. Like this space, somebody would have gotten a production from it. Everybody's taken their resource spaces, and now they're beginning to fill in locations that have more strategic importance. So for example, blue took over here because it provides support to both of these, and it also provides an attack over to here. Remember, the rivers are a combination. They're sort of like what they remind me of is the Coin Series games, which I got fire in the lake there. Andean Abyss is kicking around somewhere over here, but no, there it is. And they're lines of communication, and it's kind of interesting to see. You don't know whether or not it's derived from it, but these same kind of concepts coming up in different games. The lines of communication in Coin are really, really hard for me to grasp, and likewise here, because what they do is they serve as their own little areas, but they also serve as a boundary between two areas. So you're able to cross them without cost. They're not like it's not like your normal area control game like Wabbit Wampage. Well, Wabbit Wampage isn't about area control, but area movement. I'm always getting the two screwed up in my brain because I don't know. You get to the end of the line, and red's going to have a stupid piece somewhere. People are now filling in areas they've kind of left alone. So green, for example, here, I can place here, or I can place over here. This I can get at any time. So I'm gonna leave a defect for myself there. Blue, again, I could put it here, which will prevent me from having to have a defect in that location. Or I could make placement somewhere, where I'm right up against other people's stuff. I think I'm kind of running out of moves. There's another one here. So I'm just going to take what's mine. White likewise, take what's theirs, and that leaves, and this actually could serve some vague purpose for red if white didn't go before him and take it immediately. This leaves red taking a really useless location. It does make a big difference, your order of placement in the crowded map, but because we can see green has this sort of solid position down here. Blue has carved out a fairly big territory that's contiguous, as has white, but green has a lot of resources within their territory. Other people have their resources spread out a little bit more, with blue on an island. Red is kind of scattered. They've got this thin line which is going to easily be cracked. So they're kind of in some danger, but the problem is white, for example, is sitting between green and red and has had conflicts with both in terms of where they want to place to help defend their territory. All right, now we move this and we get to play. The game would benefit if there was some sort of play aid for each of the players. Kind of surprised Fantasy Flight didn't provide that. They tend to, they go all out. The components, the counters and everything are very nice. The printing, while I disagree with the way the rule book's presented, obviously they spent money on the presentation and the printing of it. So, on the first turn of the game, there's special rules. First we have no build phase, then we hit a production phase, and it is not a dynamic phase in the first turn of the game. So what we're going to do is in each area we put the resource. Now, I believe you're allowed to not produce if you wish not to. So if you had something that's cut off from everybody else, maybe you'd want to not produce it. The thing is, though, that trade makes a resource of some value to you, even if you're not going to be able to use it directly yourself. You may be able to exchange it on the first turn. And, you know, the person you're exchanging with may be able to hold you over the barrel a little more, depending on what the resource is worth. But you should be able to get something of value for pretty much anything that you have. Anyway, I'll place these out and I'll be back in a moment. Now, right away, I start thinking of, wow, you could change this game, mix it up a little bit. Some of the lower number of players, the option is to remove a certain number of these resources from the game. It's not an option, it's part of the rules. To reduce the amount of valuable resources that there are in the game. But it's done incrementally, so or proportionally, so you know, one of each resource is removed or something. Instead, you could kind of shake up the dynamic of the production value, the resources that are available, the rarity, etc., and you know, remove 4 resources at random, even in the 4-player game. Make it a tighter game, and it could really shake up what the what becomes important and worth fighting for, etc. But I believe this has been designed particularly for a fair balance to what happens. All right. So the next thing we go to is the trade phase. And this is going to be kind of hard to capture on film because people are going to be cutting deals. And basically, this is almost simultaneous because you can be cutting deals in any way that you like. And in fact, it may actually be. Yeah, so everybody can cut their deals before the trade phase is actually played out. When you actually take the action, does it have to be done in some sort of player order? I would suspect it does, because I don't see anything that says it doesn't. Oh, you have to have spaces adjacent to each other. Now, that's not hard to do. I don't think there's a case where somebody doesn't. Well, yeah, white and blue are adjacent to each other. So that's kind of an important factor in there, is that if you can cut someone off from their trading partners so that they don't have any adjacent spaces. But they don't have to be in any way connected to the resource, right? Let's see. Yeah, I think it's going to be done in player order once the deals have been cut and discussed. And I believe the only resources you can you trade horses? Any resource tokens? Now, this is an interesting question. Resource tokens include horses. What they don't include is weapons and stuff like that. If you want to trade weapons, you have to really kind of work within the system to drop them off in an area somebody's going to attack or something along those lines. And it's not trivial to do. So I'm going to take some time to think about potential trades, who needs what, and see where we go from there. If I go there, let's make sure I have a trade phase, because trade is one of these dynamic phases, and it's not specifically called out in the special rules for the first turn. So it's quite possible we will not. Production is too, by the way, which is really interesting, because production on the first turn is vital because everything's producing. But after that first turn, quite often you have very little production coming in unless you've done a lot of transport. Okay, so we will be having a trade phase here. Let's look at blue's position, because they're the first person that's going to have a trade. Over here they have a horse. I kind of like horses. I don't want to trade them. Their weapons and mobility And at this stage in the game, they're very, very important. It's one of the reasons I stretched to here, one of the reasons white went there so early. There aren't a lot of horses on the board, so I'm pretty happy. I have actually 2 of the horses. Over here, I've got iron and coal, which work well together. I don't particularly have anything I want to trade them away for. However, over here, I have a coal that maybe I can use, maybe I can't. Coal is only useful for a couple of things. It's useful for building skyports, which would be an interesting idea to try to develop a skyport here. I would have to trade away for a lot of materials, though, to get that. So that would require me to get an iron, a cogs, and a gold. At this point, I'm more interested in weapons. So I'm going to turn to white. White, who has no coal whatsoever, and offer him a coal for his iron. His iron isn't really useful to him at this point in the game. There's nothing he can do with iron and cogs. There's nothing he can do with iron and gold specifically. So this is probably an advantageous deal for both of them. Since blue's going first, he can make that offer. Now, everybody gets to talk, so other people get to make offers before we start actually executing them. But I think on blue's trade phase, this is a deal that I don't see anyone else being thrilled with, trying to overbid. By the way, this space over here is really interesting, this island. So, the net strength here is just 2 pieces for each. They each, basically, if I wanted to attack this space with white, I'd have 2 strength points. If I want to attack this space with green, I'd have 2 strength points. Each of the defensive spaces has 2 strength points. Nothing can move there until some resource or something gets there to change the position. There's also not enough, well, there is enough room to build up enough cogs for boats, because there's no limit to how many resources I can have in a place. The only limitation is I can't produce if I still have that resource kicking around there until I get a skywork, not skyport. All right, so we're going to make this trade legitimately, and I think blue's done with their trading possibilities. Now, for white, I have to think again, do they have something else that they can trade? It would be advantageous for me to be able to get my iron here right away, so I wouldn't have to move it, but that's going to produce there. But is there something else that white has that they could trade away? White has a lot of cogs. That would actually be something of interest that maybe they could deal, like if they could get a horse and a coal from red for a pair of cogs, red would have enough cogs here to start, well, to start building a riverboat, which doesn't help them. They need the ocean liner there, but they'd be very close to being able to build the big ship, which would be a powerful, powerful entry into this coastline. Alternatively, it's kind of hard to tell. Another gold would be nice. The problem here, though, is blue is a natural trading partner for white because they don't have a lot of territory connected to each other. Green and red are both kind of not thrilled with the idea of white getting more powerful, so they're kind of unwilling to make a trade. Red and blue may be natural trading partners. Red's not so sure because blue could advance their way, but it looks like blue is locked in a death struggle with green. So any deal might involve an understanding as to the military position as well. Another trade coming out here on white's side. Green has a couple of cogs. They're far apart. Green looks like mainly a land-based power. So if they gave 2 cogs to white, on white's next build phase, they could build themselves a riverboat, which is a powerful move. Now, in order to justify that, they have to look to what red has. Currently, because if this space falls, I'm screwed, right? Currently, what red has is that could hit here is 1, 2, 3. White has 1, 2, 3, 4, so they probably can defend themselves. The caveat to that, of course, well, no, there really isn't one, because there's not going to be any build phase before the next attack phase. So I could safely do this. What would I have to give to green for this? Well, if this is a safe place, a gold would be nice. Coal would also be of value. So the concept of trading a coal and a gold for 2 cogs sounds pleasant to both players. I'm going to roll to see if this is going to happen, because unlike the blue-white one, there's some concern here. But I'll say anything but a 6, because it does look pretty mutually beneficial. Alright. So green's going to give 2 cogs over here, and white is going to give a coal. Oh, no. White doesn't want to give coal. Hold on. White needs their coal here. Yeah, see, this is not that good. I could certainly offer a gold. I could offer a cog, but cogs don't really help green terribly much. They'll want them eventually. And without giving 2 cogs to white, it doesn't terribly help them. Now, white is not going to give away a horse. So the question is really, is a gold, which would be a weapon present for green, is that worth this deal? And you know, white can throw in a cog to even things out a little bit. I'll say odd, they'll take it. Yeah, they'll go with it. Alright, so 2 cogs, which gives white a powerful possible build there, in exchange for a gold, which I agree to put here. I don't have to do that. So I go later, I could have taken it here and put a weapon there. And a cog. So what do I want with that cog? I'm probably looking at building a bridge somewhere at some point. Now I can't build the bridge right now. We will also put that here. That gets us a position to maybe eventually hit red cutting across here. Red's got a pretty potent island though there. So now green still has something. They still have a gold here. I think white is probably tapped out in terms of what they can reasonably expect to trade. They've gotten what they want. And notice, by making the trades, I clear out my production centers, which means I get to produce next turn. Otherwise, I'd only be getting maybe a couple transport actions to move my stuff. So then green would be looking for an iron. And iron seems pretty rare. Red has an iron, but red is thinking, wow, I'm kind of screwed at this point. So red probably is willing to take that iron. But what would they exchange for it? Obviously a gold would be a good choice, but I don't think red has a gold up there. So we'll see if red and green can come to an agreement. Red and green currently are good trading partners, and as long as red has this, they can trade. As soon as this falls, red and green won't have a common border any longer. It has an interesting proposition available. Red wants to try to hold this territory. We need more. We need more than what we have. In order to do that, if I could get a coal and a gold, I could do a build phase and get a couple more weapons, which would give me a much stronger position vis-a-vis white up there. Otherwise, it looks like I'm probably going to lose this slice of territory. This island is pretty safe, so I can get rid of some of the stuff I have on it. So what I'm offering here is, in exchange for a gold and a coal, which green has both of, I can give them a coal. Okay, that's kind of nice, you know. I get things moved without having to actually transport them, because it'll take me 2 transport options to get my coal and my metal here. And worse than that, I can't build 2 weapons in the same place because weapons collapse into each other. But to sweeten the deal, I'll throw in a horse, because horses are commodities and they can be transported, or resources, and they can be transported in the same way as the others can. This is pretty positive for both sides again, I think. The horse is very appealing to green because it gives them some transportation capability that they just don't have, and they're going to have a hard time getting if they're locked in a war for a while, which it looks like they will be. So let's see. Now, on the other hand, blue has a possible opportunity for them, which is for red, which is, I don't terribly care for building a bridge at this point, but for the skyport, I need one of everything, basically. So if blue had a gold, which they do not, they could help me set up a skyport here. So right now, looks like the most positive choice. Basically, what I was thinking was, blue would like to get their weaponry together without having to move it, perhaps. Although it's less important on this first turn. Alright. So, and why did I take my iron over here? Oh, because I've got these 2 together already. Alright, let's see if I get an odd. Yeah, I do. So green is going to go with this deal, which I believe was to trade now I'm trying to see. They have to give a coal over there. There's no easy way for me to mark this, but they give a coal. Well, let's see. Green is giving up a coal, and they're giving up, geez, I don't remember what else. I think it was a gold. And in exchange, they're getting a coal and a horse. Okay. So the coal and the gold get placed to strengthen red. The coal down here. The horse. It's useful to have it here because, for a couple of reasons. One is I'm going to be able to build a weapon there. The other is this projects force into a lot of different areas, including into this attack. So I think that's probably the best place for my horse. I'm probably done with trade, but I want to take a moment to make sure that there isn't another one available, because green still has some free things, and red, of course, still has a cog over here that they're not really using. But I'm not sure that they terribly need. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done. Okay. So that's the end of trade. Now we come to transport, and transport is again a dynamic phase. So let's roll a die, see if we get transport. We do. So now blue has the first transport move. Now, can I hold this is the question. And the answer is, this is attacked by 1, 2, 3, and that looks like it. It has a defense of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sounds like I can. I am going to transport my coal here to strengthen this position. I think that's my most important transport move. For white, I got my cogs already together there. This is here. So I'll get my production there next turn. It's going to take me a couple turns to get that together. White kind of doesn't have anything set up where they really need to move things. I'm not sure I need a horse here. So I'm going to move my horse. This seems the most central location that I need to defend, but maybe it's here. I don't think this adds to any defenses I really need. So I'm going to move this horse over here. And that strengthens my position there. Red's set up to build things. And then over here, well, I'd like to produce a cog next turn, and that's pretty much all that I have in terms of placement. The cog, out of all the places that I can put it, which is here and here, is probably most useful here, although it's safer back here. All right, and now we go to green. Green has their productions in place, all lined up. I've got my horse where I wanted it, and I really don't have anything I want to move. Puts us to the battle phase. Now, because this is the first turn, special rules apply for the battle phase. You're only allowed one successful attack, but you're allowed to transport as well. Okay. So, here's where things get kind of tricky, because what you have to do is you have to look around and decide, well, what can I take? Who do I want to piss off? Whatever. Blue and red don't necessarily feel like they have a tremendous desire to go to war, because blue and green are locked in a war, and red and white are locked in what they see as a war at this point. So I'm probably safe there. And to tell you the truth, I shouldn't have transported this. I should have transported my horse, but we'll leave that as it is. The reason why the horse should have been transported is I can use that in attack, and then I'm going to have a transport action afterwards. So if I wanted to attack this space as an example, there would be a defense of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 1, 6 for the horse. I'm not going to get that kind of strength. I have like 2. In fact, I'm a little worried about the possibility of attacks against me. Because I get to go first, I can kind of preempt that. So what I could do is make an attack into here. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the horse. Against this, which has 1, 2, 3, there's no way that green can defend themselves. There's no allies that are next door or anything like that. So I think I want this space because it solidifies my territory. I might want this space for the same reasons, but we'll leave red out of this for now. So, yeah, I'm going to declare my attack. Now, one of the questions is, do I want my horse to move? And I do, so I'm going to declare it as a spearhead. It gives me a little bit more solid defenses. And, well, as we've already counted the points, so the green piece goes away, the blue piece goes here, and this goes in here. Now I have a transport move if I so desire. This isn't going to fall easily. An alliance could make something fall, though. That's one thing to keep in mind, is just because one person may not have the advantage on their own in a certain area, it's possible that a white attack against this could end up getting blue support and end up succeeding because of that. Which is why I'm thinking like this piece, but I think that's pretty safe. So I'm going to move my horse again. This space is pretty safe. I'm going to move my horse down to Occam. I think that's sort of my most vulnerable location. That's the keystone to what's going on in my empire. Over to white. They probably want to make an attack, just because you always want to. Over here I have 1, 2 to 2. I'm not going to be able to hit that easily. Likewise, I can't hit here. This is defended by 3. Blue probably isn't going to support me. My strongest location looks like it may be someplace like here, where I have 3, but they have 3. I think white has no attack unless they can get somebody to help them, which is a pity. Now, I could declare attacks, but they're not going to get me anywhere, and I certainly don't see why blue would support me against red. They're kind of happy with that war. Now, red would give support against green, but they can't give it. And green's got to make a decision on their turn. Do they just want to grab this, or do they want to keep open that capacity for trade that they wouldn't have? And right now, this doesn't look like much of a threat, but if they start to fall, red might get support from someone else to finish green off and might end up with a little territory down here. So yeah, white's not going to do an attack. Red would love to attack here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, no way. Is there somewhere where I doubt it. I really don't have a lot of power anywhere. Here? Nope. Yeah, it doesn't look like red has any attacks. And then finally to green. Green would love to make an attack. We don't particularly want to attack white unless there's something cool to gain from it. And it doesn't look like there's anything. Actually, we can't attack here. We don't have enough strength to beat it. And I don't think we're going to gain any ground on blue either. Let's make sure. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's not going to do it. So we're in kind of a point of stasis right now over here on the island. Remember, that was balanced. So that ends the battle phase. No, it doesn't end the battle phase. Did white want to do a transport? Yeah. Let me see if anybody had any resources they wanted to move. So the problem with this space is a build comes before production, so I'm okay there. White's okay with what they've got down. Red, did they want to transport anything? Probably. Yeah, they've already moved their stuff. I can move this cog another space, get it further away. There's a reason for that. No, there isn't. I'll just collect my cogs there. Does green have a move that they want to make? These two are already keyed up, although I could move them to a more useful location. So for example, this horse could move 1, 2 and move stuff up, but that would actually not be terribly helpful to me. Yeah, I don't think green has any moves either. So yes, I think we are done for this turn. This was the first turn of the game. Trying to debate whether or not to throw this video up. It's fairly long already, so I think we will. I kind of wanted to get the second turn in some detail, which is why I can't put it on the same video. All right, so we move this marker, and it goes over to the white paper player. And you can see one of the biggest things in the turn is figuring out whether or not the trade works. It's like civilization in that it is. That's where a lot of the time gets spent, because you're trying to work out with other people at the same time as you're trying to figure out, okay, Yeah, but you know, what does this mean in the diplomatic sense? After I make this trade, what's it going to affect on the board? You know, in the long term, and so you're having to calculate out your combat strength, etc. at that point. All right, we'll send this up then.